Okay, we are live from the Ram Cave. I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the July the 12th, 2022 edition. I am back. I was gone for a week. Well, I'm seem like I'm most Ram podcasters these days. They just post once a week. I should be posting every day, but I can't. I'm back home now. I've been working children's camp, CIT camp, and actually I'm going back to children's camp next week. And I've been working youth camp, high school camp, and one of the things that happened up there that I have to, I guess, get into. I don't like to start the show. Hey, how was your week, Charlie? And all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I have to get into a little bit is I posted a picture on Facebook that said, "Yeah, I ran the Tomahawks today." I did run the Tomahawks. But the picture I posted was from about 5 years ago. And I forget sometimes that I got new people watching, and I assumed everybody knew it was a joke. And yeah, I had injured myself with a machete a few years ago. That's a whole other story. But I didn't get hurt from a tomahawk this time. And even the campground, the director, Shay Stewart, was telling me at Granite Ridge Christian Camp where I was working, he says people were saying, "Hey, what happened to Joe? Did he hurt himself?" And I didn't hurt myself. I was just clown at camp. And if I'm guilty of anything on Facebook, I'm proud to say is that I kind of just reached for the laugh or the ridiculous more than I reach for the stone seriousness, especially when I'm doing stuff that's not preaching. But no, I'm fine. Thank you for those that were concerned. I am a bleeder, as you can tell. So, but thank you so much. I did not hurt myself. Okay, so we got that out of the way. But I am really happy to be back. And I came back because I hadn't seen a lot of things. And, the Baker Mayfield trade happened. And now there's talk. And funny, all the conversation that I'm hearing now is conversation that we kind of had right here a couple months ago. Talking about Jimmy G, Garoppolo going to Seattle. I'm hearing buzz about that when I get back into the world. And, of course, it makes sense. The trades always make sense to send Garoppolo to Seattle. Seattle could use him, but of course, it's in the division. Well, what is this? I can't stand it when you're spoken down to. And then I saw another article on the Rams quarterback room. What's going to happen here? We've been talking about the quarterback room. Come on. You guys are in the room. You're doing this full time. We know this. The only thing I've been saying, maybe that others aren't saying, is that it's time for the wolf to go. Let's dance with Bryce Perkins and let's go with him, because I think the wolf is limited. But yeah, that's stuff that's going on. We know this stuff, and there's so many other things to dig into. Reminder again about the Rams games. We talked about the first five, and I want to just rehash that just briefly, and then go on tomorrow into the next five after that. But the first five games, the Bills at home on September 8th, Thursday. I won't talk about preseason because the starters aren't going to play. There'll be other things to talk about. The Bills are at home against the Rams to open the season on September 8th. And guys, frankly, that game doesn't really concern me. Of course, I want to win. But if they lose, I'm not really going to get worked up about it, and you shouldn't either. The thing that happens, and this is where you really find the Ram fan, the nuanced Ram fan, versus, and I know it sounds like I'm talking about myself, but the one that sees the Rams lose a game, Stafford throws two picks, one's a tip, one's a bad pass, maybe a miscommunication between him and a receiver, and it's like, oh my God, the sky is falling. We got lucky last year. Oh no, Hey, the Rams could lose this game against the Bills at home, and it doesn't mean a thing, all right? What you want is, out of those first five, they're playing the Bills and Falcons at home, then they're playing the Cardinals and 49ers on the road, then they're playing the Cowboys at home. What you'd want to see ideally out of that is the Rams start off 4-1. And the one loss, I think the loss that I would accept is the one against the Bills, because it doesn't make any difference, guys. And when you see them in February in the Super Bowl, maybe, okay, now we got tape, we got film, and we'll know what to expect. But the Rams should beat the Falcons at home in week 2. They have to win their division games, right? They got to go on the road and beat the Cardinals again, and I think the Cardinals are cruising for a bruising. I don't think the Cardinals are very good. And the one that does make me nervous is the 49ers. The 49ers always make me nervous, whether Jimmy G goes to Seattle or Trey Lance is at quarterback, which we're expecting. I think Trey Lance is going to need half a season to get his feet wet. If he is what they hope he's going to be, he's going to at least need half a season to really develop and get good. And so this is the game the Rams have to win. So they don't have to go up north to Santa Clara and play a critical game there that they have to win. You still want to win them, but you know what I'm talking about with the division on the line. So they got to win this game. That's the one that concerns me. If the Rams go 4-1 and they lose to the 49ers on Monday night, October 3rd, that's going to bother me. If they go 4-1 and lose to the Bills at home on opening night, we're okay. And of course, we always have to beat the Cowboys because I hate the Cowboys, right? May they rot and lie stinking in the earth. You know that. You know that's it. You can't stand the Cowboys, so let's make sure we get that business taken care of. A couple other things here. Oh yeah, happy birthday to former Rams safety Michael Stewart. Michael Stewart actually hosts a podcast. I think it's called Rams Talk Rams, with Derek Chiapella, and they host a really good podcast. I enjoy listening to them. But Michael Stewart, he won't remember me, but he was the second NFL player I ever interviewed back in the 80s. It was just after his rookie season with the Rams. And it's interesting about Michael Stewart, right? Because he's doing a Ram podcast at a high level. I'm doing a Ram podcast at a low level. He was born in Atascadero, and the camp I just worked where I did not hurt myself with the tomahawk, that is about 15, 20 minutes outside of Atascadero in a little city called Creston. And one of my first gigs as an intern back in the 80s was working for a magazine in Bakersfield. I commuted. I did not live in Bakersfield. My go to Bakersfield, work in Bakersfield, spend the night in Fraser Park, and go home. Yeah, I wasn't a big Bakersfield fan, but I did a story on the high school because the high school, the Drillers, was a pretty famous high school. Jeff Seaman went there. Theo Bell went there. Louis Wright from the Broncos played there. And so Michael Stewart was with the Rams, and a local magazine wanted to do a story on Michael Stewart. So I got to go to Rams Park. And he was, like I said, he was the second NFL guy that I interviewed. But Michael Stewart, who turns 57 today, he was an 8th round pick, 213 overall in 1987 for the Rams. And here's so funny. You think about all the draft choices the Rams missed on, right? Donald Evans, Mike Schad, Aaron Cox, Bill Hawkins, all these busts that they had. In the 8th round, 213 overall, they get Michael Stewart in the 1987 draft. And he ends up sticking with the team for 7 years. In fact, out of 108 possible games that he could have played for the Rams, he played in 103 of them. I believe it was in 92, 93. He missed 5 games. But he was a steady guy, consistent starter, mostly at strong safety, played a tiny bit of free safety for the Rams. But he was a guy that was always there. He was a good guy. Then he ended up spending the last 3 years of career in Miami, 2 of them as a starter. But what I remember about Michael Stewart, did I say he was from Fresno State? Cool. Played for Jim Sweeney. But what I remember of Michael Stewart was I got to Rams Park, and I had set the interview up 2 days before. And I think they had an intern working in the public relations department then, because I got there and the intern seemed to have forgotten that I had set up a time to interview Michael Stewart. And they were in between workouts and they were going into the calf and everyone was eating. And it was a weird day around Rams Park because I remember going in, and one thing I remember, they had just released some players. And I passed Steve Dills back at quarterback and Mike Gooman, and I believe they had been released that day. And they were trying to get their closing business worked out. And it was a weird vibe outside the calf. Inside the cafeteria, I walk in there, and there's the offensive line, and Charles White, the running back from USC, he comes in there and he starts yelling at the offensive line. I think Duval Love yelled something back, and they're just jawing at each other, and it felt like a college or high school locker room. Everyone's giving each other a hard time. Jim Everett is going into his 3rd year, and you could tell he's the quarterback. He's the tall, good-looking guy, and he's just shaking hands with people, talking, perpetual smile. And just owning the room, right? Johnny Johnson, the safety, the original John Johnson out of Texas, 1980, first round. He comes in and he's got his glasses on and his playbook under him, and he's just all business. He's a pro's pro, right? And then Michael Stewart sits down, and he's up at the counter, I think, getting his grub. And they sit me down at a table, and I open my briefcase and stuff. And the media guy goes up and talks to him just as he's about to sit down to eat. And I don't think he was thrilled that he had to come during lunchtime and come talk to me. He had a sandwich and a salad, I think. And he was very polite, very kind, made my job a lot easier. I got to admit, I was a little overwhelmed because while I had interviewed a pro football player before, I had not been in that environment. So I was trying to soak it all in. And it was an interview that was okay. It wasn't great. And I felt really bad because I interrupted his lunch. And, there are times pretty constricted there, but it was good. So I went back, I wrote the article, and the magazine folded. So that was the end of that. But that was my experience. So I don't think Michael Stewart remembers me, and that's okay. He doesn't have to. But I'd like to say happy birthday to Michael Stewart out of Bakersfield High School and played for Fresno State, who was a great Ram in a dark time, right? After the 89 season, it was a dark time for the Los Angeles Rams. And he was one of the shining spots there. Okay, as we hit the 11-minute mark, Hall of Fame. Real quick, again, I'm Joe Tarosian, and thank you those that are clicking on and subscribing and leaving comments. I'm seeing an uptick in my Spotify account, and so I appreciate that. Slow going. Again, I'm a firm believer you should be out here every day as much as you can, and I haven't been able to recently because it's my summer schedule. But thank you everybody for clicking on and subscribing. I'm a writer and a pastor. That's how come I'm involved in camps. So where I pastor a local, very small church in Burbank, but I work with a place called Granite Ridge Christian Camp, overseeing what's called their Outsiders program, where we direct kids camp, youth camp, training academy for young counselors, and then men's, women's, and family camp that we do through the course of the year. And then my other job is I used to write sports full-time. Well, not full-time, but I was pretty full-time writing sports for Mid-Valley Sports website. And I've moved on from there, and I write books now. You can find my books on Amazon and at joetarosian.com. My Twitter handle is JoeT13B, as the same handle I use at Instagram and, of course, by name on Facebook. There, did we do the commercial? We did the commercial. All right. So speaking of quarterbacks, and Rams quarterbacks in the room, the Hall of Fame finalists came out for 2023, and they had this long list of players. And so I just looked at that list, and there's several former Rams on there. Linebacker Maxie Bond, who was part of the Ramskins, the big trade that sent all those Ram players to George Allen in 71 to play for the Redskins. And that was the Dyer and Talbert, Maxie Bond, Jack Pardee, and it was that big deal. And Maxie Bond came up as a finalist. I've seen Maxie Bond's career. He's a Ram, great, but all Hall of Famer? I don't know. Other names that from a Ram days that popped up, Eddie Meter. I think Eddie Meter, if he had played on a championship team, if the Rams had done something a little bit more during his stint with the Rams, he would be, because he was a really good safety. But he's a finalist for the Hall of Fame. And then the other name that popped up, Clark Shaughnessy. I don't pronounce that right. Clark Shaughnessy. He was Rams head coach for 48 and 49 seasons in LA when they'd first come here. And he was an innovator offensively, and he's a finalist. I would have thought, because knowing his name, I thought he was in already. But he's the guy that converted Crazy Legs Hirsch from a running back to a flanker wide receiver, and he's on the ballot. Other names that popped up on the ballot that kind of surprised me was Ken Anderson, the Cincinnati Bengal quarterback. Really good quarterback. Made it to a Super Bowl. He was a fantastic quarterback. No problem there. But Jim Plunkett is still not on this list. Jim Plunkett won 2 Super Bowls with the Raiders. Jim Plunkett has as everyone says, we love the narrative. And I know he's not a Ram player, but everyone loves the narrative of the comeback and the resurrection. Jim Plunkett is almost a Kurt Warner type story, almost, because he didn't come from nowhere. Is that he was up here and then everything crashed and burned. Confidence destroyed, body broken. I read an article that says he's had 18 surgeries on his back and knees and currently has 2 replacement knees. Dude took a beating. Ideally, did he play too long? Yeah, he probably played too long. But, it's kind of hard when the best part of your career is the back half after you're all broken up after those years in New England in a couple years there in Frisco. He got the snot beat out of him. Comes to an organization that had talent and he had success, but he probably extended his career a couple years too long. But the dude won 2 Super Bowls. Also, I'm really surprised with it was really interesting a year or two ago, the NFL suddenly realized Tom Flores was Hispanic, right? Tom Flores won 2 Super Bowls with Jim Plunkett at quarterback, Hispanic coach, Hispanic player. Oh, but we just realized 40 years later that Tom Flores was Hispanic. And so the NFL had to cover its bases and get him on the ballot and make sure he got elected, or even the sports writers, frauds that overlooked him for all those years. Well, now they're overlooking Jim Plunkett. And if they're so worried about their public points and their woke points, and it wouldn't be some freebie or some quota to put him in there, Jim Plunkett deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And if they need to use the excuse that, oh, he was a Hispanic quarterback, okay, use it. I don't care. Jim Plunkett deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because of his career and his narrative. And 2 Super Bowls, guys. He won 2 Super Bowls, and he should be in there before Ken Anderson. Some other names that popped up: Mark Clayton of the Marx Brothers for the Dolphins popped up. I was kind of questioning about him. Roger Craig of the 49ers popped up, and I think he gets overshadowed. But I hated Roger Craig, and generally, people ask, the question is, when you think of that person, do you think Hall of Fame immediately? And if you don't think Hall of Fame immediately, then they're not a Hall of Famer. I have a different criteria as a Ram fan. When they mentioned their name, did I hate them? Yes, I hated them on the field, not off the field. Did I hate them? Yes. Okay, then they're a Hall of Famer. There's this thing buzzing around on Facebook right now on one of the football sites, and it's a really good one, football research group on Facebook, and they had a question: is Chuck Foreman a Hall of Famer? And maybe not, but did I hate him? Yes, I hated him, so he should be in the Hall of Fame. Lester Hayes for the Raiders should be in the Hall of Fame. He was dominant cover corner for several years, if not the full 10, 11 years of his career. He was a dominant corner from 77, 78, all the way through 84, 85. And I think he extended his career till about 87, 88. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Randy Gradishar, Denver Broncos, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Other names that came up: Chris Hinton, offensive tackle with Indianapolis Colts, part of the Elway trade. That might be borderline. The one I thought was already in was Chuck Halley, former Dallas Cowboy linebacker. I hear the name Chuck Halley. I thought he was a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's on the ballot, but he's a Dallas Cowboy. I don't want Chuck Halley in the Hall of Fame. He's a Cowboy. Legendary Packer quarterback Cecil Isbell. I thought he was in the Hall of Fame. Joe Jacoby. I think he might be worthy. He was a great story, great member of the Hogs for the Washington Redskins. Billy White Shoes Johnson had put together a really nice back half of his career as a receiver, and I think he gets stung because most of his splash points came as a punt return artist. And so they're kind of iffy about special teams guys. Once you get past Devin Hester, but Billy Johnson, there might be an argument there. Mike Ken, offensive tackle for the Falcons, great, good call, good discussion to have there. George Coods, another one. Bob Kuechenberg of the Dolphins. I thought he was already in, but Bob Kuechenberg was an excellent guard for the Dolphins. Not only was he on their 72 Super Bowl team, but he was also a starter on their 84 Super Bowl team. Jim Marshall with the Vikings, consistent player, Hall of the Very Good. He's a Viking. I hated him. I don't want him in, but he probably deserves. Another guy that it probably should get more consideration because of the length of time he played and how well he played for so long was Clay Matthews for the Browns all those years, never missing a game, always going out there. I think he should get Hall of Fame consideration. Then you got Stanley Morgan, wide receiver for the New England Patriots. I think he's very iffy. Tommy Nobis was really good, and I think if he didn't play in Atlanta for his whole career, he might get consideration. Sterling Sharp's career was, of course, derailed. It depends on how you want to view it. Before he really got a chance to do anything on a big stage. And, of course, Shannon Sharp became the star of the family. Otis Taylor, I thought was a fantastic receiver. I think Otis Taylor really deserves a look. Everson Walls, the Cowboys cornerback coming from nowhere. He really deserves a look. And the one guy that I complain about every year is Cincinnati Bengal cornerback Ken Riley, who played from like 1970 through 83, an excellent cornerback. I think he has something, I think he's pushing like mid 60s. I think he has like 65 career interceptions. And I believe he's passed away. Long overdue. Ken Riley definitely should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. Other names that came up as contributors: Roone Arledge, ABC, definitely a Hall of Famer. Don Coryell, for what he brought to the NFL game out of San Diego State, definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. Mike Holmgren, I can wait. I can wait. Make Mike Holmgren wait. Robert Kraft, yes, belongs in the Hall of Fame. Odell, yeah, belongs in the Hall of Fame. Another name that popped up that, you heard this name for years, Buddy Parker was the head coach of the Lions in their glory days. 1952, 1953 is the Bobby Lane years. They beat the Browns back-to-back in the NFL Championship. He should be in. Mike Shanahan's got 2 Super Bowls. He should be in. But make him wait, right? And Mike Shanahan was the last one there that I wanted to slip in. Somebody asked me a question when I was at camp, and it came up in terms of, because I work with students, and I was a youth pastor for 11 years, and I coached a lot of church basketball leagues, a lot of young people taking to basketball tournaments and dealing with them. And of course, the issue always comes up in terms of, how do I feel? Let me take some water here. This is my Granite Ridge mug. They asked me, how do I feel about running up the score? Or being my score being run up on me. And these are the things that kind of came to mind. First, when you're hiring a coach, you want to take a coach that's more emotionally prepared than technically X and O's prepared, because you're coaching students, okay? And as long as that coach understands, if you're at Los Alamitos, Mater Dei, Servite, out in Texas somewhere, John Bosco over here, it's a different level. But for the most students aren't playing at that level. They're barely going to get on the field, maybe a little bit at a D3 or an NAIA school, maybe a little junior college ball. So you really got to do what football's intended to do and sports is intended to do, to teach, And so you need an emotionally prepared coach more than you need a stylistically wonderfully powerful X and O type coach. And because it's the emotionally prepared coach that's not going to get overwhelmed when he loses. He's going to look at every moment as a teaching opportunity. And essentially that's what they are. Coaches are teachers. But basically now, because of different things from budget to finances to everything, basically when you hire a coach now, they're not really tested if they're emotionally prepared or even X and O prepared. Did they pass a background check? And can they walk and chew gum at the same time? Oh, great. You're our HC of our freshman football team. Pass the background check. HC of the football team. Any football experience? Yeah, I played in the street when I was a kid. Okay, you can be hired. And unfortunately, quite often it's like that, because there's a lot of admins who just do lip service to sports, and they look down on sports. A lot of higher education folks in the administration circles, they treat it like it's just some stupid thing. And no, it's really important, and they need to consider it. And Texas, I believe they hire their football coaches to be like their teachers, and they really need to invest, because you're prepping people for life. One of the things I always stopped doing, what I never did as a coach, is I didn't worry about what the other team was doing. I didn't worry about if they were running up the score on me or doing anything. I worried about my own team. I worried about what my team was doing. Even in games where I thought we were getting blown out. Are you running the offense? Are you being fundamental, guarding the baseline, or are you practicing the fundamentals? Are you catching the football with your hands instead of in your body? Are you running the right routes? Are you doing those things? Let the coach kicking your butt do what he wants to do, because he has some other reason, something else going through his head, and it's really not your concern. But you keep coaching and keep teaching. And my thing was making sure the team recognizes the moment, that it's not about winning, but competing. And in that competing where you're down by 30, you're not rolling over and dying for the team you're going against. And instead, what you're doing is blaming the officials, blaming your coach, blaming your teammates, and saying, oh, everyone sucks and I'm going to transfer out. And so a really good coach, an emotionally prepared coach, takes that moment and builds it up and says, keep practicing the fundamentals, keep playing hard. Keep boxing out, keep playing defense to the best of your ability, and don't let the momentum of everything overwhelm you, and then gain from it. You want a coach that reminds his players after a 54-0 playoff loss in November that they really lost the game when they didn't show up or horsed around during conditioning in the spring. Every coach knows this, right? There's the player that just takes that one, it's Friday afternoon, I don't want to lift. It's Friday, Monday morning. I couldn't get there on time to lift at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And the wise coach is the one when that loss happens in November or December, when the blowout occurs, the wise coach tells them, yeah, it hurts. And guess what? You didn't lose this game tonight. You lost it when you decided not to show up to workouts. And instead, what we do, we transfer the blame on the other coach because, he ran up the score. Who cares what the other guy did? You can't control the other guy. You can control what you do. I never cared personally if another team ran up the score when I was coaching. In fact, I'd help them. I wanted to make sure in a blowout situation, and if I felt my guys had not taken it serious enough, I wanted to make the pain all the worse. So I used all my timeouts. I can remember coaching on the sideline and having the other coach kind of walk down to me. He says, Joe, I'm going to call off the dogs right now. I just wanted to get my second team some work. And I would literally tell them, I said, no, you keep doing what you have to do. And if you want to press the whole game up by 30, you press the whole game up by 30. But I said, the only thing I want you to do is use all your timeouts. And they'd look at me. I said, no, I want you to use all your timeouts because I'm going to use all mine. And I'm going to slow this game down so I have something to build on. Because I knew it would help me at practice during the week or getting me ready for the following season that says, hey, this is what happened to you guys. And I would tell them, I called timeout so they'd run up the score on you. I wanted them to run up the score on you because it's really a metaphor for life, right? Do you get a timeout? Does life call the dogs off when it's pressuring you? When your car breaks down, does your landlord suddenly say, don't worry about the mortgage or the rent because I know your car broke down? No, the car breaks down, the mechanic wants his dough, the landlord wants their dough. Do you think if your kid's going to school and you're paying for the private school or the nursery, I know your car broke down and I know your rent is due, but you know what? The tuition's due too. I got teachers to pay. You need to get your tuition in. Do you really think the world calls off? And then, the money's due for tuition, the money's due for rent, the money's due for the car. And then all of a sudden you got to go to the doctor. And your copay is $50 or $20 or $30, or maybe it's something more. Maybe you don't have insurance. Does life say, oh, yeah, I'm calling off the dogs because, it's so sad. I'm sorry. So the weak coach, the really bad coach, is the one's not emotionally prepared to take the team when everything's going wrong and tell them, keep fighting, keep focused, stay on the fundamentals. And that's something that translates to life. When everything's going to heck in a handbasket around you, when the baño hits the fan, when everything's going in a handbasket around you, you're still doing the fundamentals. In basketball, you're still boxing out. You're still guarding the baseline to the best of your ability. You're still guarding the shooter on the free throws, right? You're still catching the ball with your hands and not letting it hit your body. You're still following your shot, right? You're still doing the fundamentals. You're working on leverage when you're blocking. You make sure your head is up and you're wrapping up when you're tackling, and you're not taking cheap shots. You're staying as focused as possible. And that really is because we've all had moments where we wish life would call off the dogs on us, right? But as when we mature, we realize, you know what? I got to make sure the car works. So if I have to pedal to work the next day or get a ride from a friend, then the car is going to go to the shop and I'm going to worry about getting to work first. And then, you know what? Maybe I have to hold off buying that new computer, that new TV, that new something, because I got to pay the rent or pay tuition, pay my babysitter, You make those decisions because you rationalize, you understand that if you quit, it doesn't go away. It just gets passed on to your loved ones and your kids. And football and sport provides an opportunity to teach that unless you hire an emotionally unprepared jackwagon that can't understand what's going on when his team's getting blown out. Now, as a coach, when I was blowing somebody out, I would make the decision like, okay, I need to get my guys in there, empty my bench, and let them do what they needed to do. I didn't have too many blowout situations that I was in charge of. And yeah, I'd look at the notice. I said, oh, we don't need to hammer him in, but who cares what I think? Who cares what I think? My responsibility is to my team. The coach on the other side of the aisle here, of the court, it's their team. The other side of the field, it's their team. And if they're leading, they can make a decision that pull their guys out. We don't want anyone to get hurt. You're going to get sloppy, Or they could say, you know what? I don't care if we're getting blown out. We're still going to keep competing. And that was me, you know. So I think there's a lot of whining, and I think in coaching we have a lot of people that we bring in that we give them the whistle and the cap, and we call them coach, but they're not emotionally prepared. They can X and O, but they're not prepared to deal with the stuff that's going on because they act like a child when things aren't going their way. And that, of course, it's children then leading children. So always look for the coach that's better emotionally prepared than an X and O. Oh my gosh, I just can't believe I did all that for 10 minutes here on the RamView. Sorry about that, guys. I apologize, but I'm just answering a question because everyone knows what my gig is as working with students and then doing sports. All right, I went too long. Forgive me. God bless. Thank you so much for clicking on. Please hit like, share, share. Leave your comments in the box. I'd love to have a discussion with you. You really encourage me. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Alajaji, watching my sports cast. Hey, I honked for the Raiders today, Mr. Alajaji. I did. I honked for the Raiders. Go Jim Plunkett. Okay, I got to go. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll see you soon.